Okay, this was supposed to be a short one. Now I'm taking 3 on this. I got to get going, though. I wanted to make this quick. This is about the abortion issue. Now that Roe versus Wade has been, revoked or reversed, it's time for Christians to step up. I'm an atheist. And from what I'm seeing, I'm a heck of a lot better than you Christians out there. I have seen some of the most, I don't know the word for it. Is it hypocritical? Oxymoronic? I don't know what the word is. But I'm getting mixed messages from you. And it's all based on poor hating and slut shaming. And slut shaming is always gender based. Okay? I'm going to try to use the correct pronouns, the correct nouns. I'm learning, so bear with me here. But the thing is, the people with the labia are slut-shamed, whereas the men, or the people with the penis never are. Okay? The one with the labia, typically, are the ones that are left holding the baby or having to deal with the pregnancy if they get pregnant. The one with the working uterus, the working fallopian tubes, the working ovaries are the ones that have to deal with 100% of the aftermath of pregnancy. Whether that pregnancy end in miscarriage, whether it be a voluntary termination, whether it be carrying to term. Whether carrying to term means placing or resulting in raising, or a mix of both, which happens sometimes, which is the best situation. The one that can get pregnant 100% of the time has responsibility. There's no way to get out of the responsibility of being pregnant. Okay, there is no way. Anybody who says that abortion is a way to get out of pregnancy, that's dealing with pregnancy. Just like having a miscarriage would be dealing with pregnancy. Having carrying to term would be dealing with pregnancy. Abortion is dealing with pregnancy. And abortion, it's costly financially. Not just with the initial cost of the abortion. Most insurances don't cover it. And the insurances that do cover it don't cover quote unquote optional pregnancy abortions. In which I would argue if a woman, I'm trying to use the correct pronouns. If somebody who's pregnant wants to get an abortion, in my opinion, that abortion is necessary. Right? But most insurance won't cover. Some won't cover them at all. But the ones that do will only cover it if they deem it medically. The doctor or I don't know who decides in this situation, but whether it be the doctor or the health insurance company deems it necessary, medically necessary. So anyways, there's that. There's the physical pain of the abortion. I don't know. I think maybe different doctors do it different ways. If some doctors, maybe they give, knock women out or give them a local, or I don't know. But there's pain afterwards. There's medication that needs to be taken afterwards. There might need to be, there might need to be aftercare. There's usually doctor wants to see the patient again afterwards, make sure everything's healing correctly. Sometimes they don't, but there's the cost of the medication, the cost of having to take a day off of work, because usually, they don't work weekends and nights. They're doctors, All right, so you have to take a day off of work. You might have to take more than one day off of work because of, if you're bleeding or whatever's going on, pain, whatever. So there's loss of that. And, people in unstable jobs are working through temp services. They often just SOL on this, because usually you don't get enough days off through the temp service to where you can actually do this. So a lot of women are forced to carry to term. There's another reason why, and I'm an atheist, and a lot of pro-choicers will say abortion is still going to happen even if you criminalize it. And it seems that they're trying to use that as a reason to keep it legal, which is a very bad reason. Murder's still going to happen even though it's criminalized. It still does happen even though it's criminalized. Doesn't mean you should decriminalize murder. That's a bad excuse. The thing is, abortion is decreased because of laws and social pressure and religious pressure. I myself did not get an abortion because of religious pressure. Okay, I regret that now. If I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't have even cared what anybody said. I would have just gotten that abortion. I had my life going on the right track. I was on the road to stability. I was homeless. Yes, I would have done it. But, yes, but having that child destroyed my life. It absolutely destroyed my life. It set me back to before, to homeless plus. I wasn't just homeless, I was homeless plus. Homeless plus child made it even worse than if I didn't have that child. And it just destroyed my life. But yes, I carry to term, and that was not because of the laws, but because of the religious pressure. I was raised Baptist, Fundy Baptist, and they said abortion was a sin. Not that you were going to hell, because Baptists believe in eternal security. Once saved, always saved. But they said it was a sin, and I didn't want to sin. Didn't want to be pregnant, but didn't want to sin. So I carried to term. Ruined my body, decreased my sexual sensation, ruined my sex life. Regret it. I had a good job and couldn't keep it because then I had a child. But now, my biggest gripe is with the Christians. And this is what I figured out. We don't have to worry about Christianity slipping into the government. Not real Christianity. Because we're seeing how the government treats the poor. And the religious leaders already have their lobbyists. Well, the religious leaders are the lobbyists, let's just put it that way. They're funding the campaigns. They're giving donations right and left. We already got the religious leaders of the stronghold on the politicians that make the laws and set up the benefits programs and the welfare system and all the amenities we get from our taxes. And we're not doing anything for the poor. We're doing it all for the rich. That's not Christianity, if your Christianity includes teachings of Jesus. I'm an atheist, and most of the teachings of Jesus I agree with. There's a couple I have a problem with, but most of them I agree with. And I utilize them. And I even use the sayings of Jesus Just like I use the sayings of Buddha, I use the sayings in my personal life. I use some sayings from the Bible in my personal life. Even in the Old Testament. Because I think some stuff is good. So much of it is terrible. There's more terrible stuff in the Old Testament than good stuff, but we don't have to worry about that because it's not happening. Okay. We're not increasing the welfare benefits. We haven't increased the cash assistance benefits in 40 years. Inflation skyrocketed. But our cash benefit system for the poor, for the needy, for the widows, for poor women, for poor children, that hasn't increased. Food stamps increased a little bit, from what I hear. I don't know the data on that, but our cash assistance hasn't. 20 years ago, 20-something years ago, I was on cash assistance, I was on food stamps, I was on Medicaid, I was on WIC. Cash assistance for one child which is what I had, was $401 a month. 20-something years ago, you couldn't get an apartment. Now that is your total cash assistance. It's cash assistance. You couldn't get an apartment for $401 a month. Nowhere near. You couldn't even rent a room for $400 a month. And definitely renting a room, they wouldn't have allowed you to have a child. Ask me how I know. But now they're still getting $401 a month. And rent is a lot higher now than back then. And that money would have to pay your utilities and all the stuff, your bus fare, whatever. Can't be done. Okay, it's time for Christians to step up and shut up from what they've been saying. I went online, Facebook. There was a post from the White House, from branch of the White House, with a woman, I can't remember her name, from the gender policy branch. She was talking about what abortion meant, what this overturning of Roe versus Wade meant for people, explaining how the states now dictate if abortion is legal, to what extent, all the rules and regulations surrounding it. That the Supreme Court no longer has any say in the legalization. So there was so much hate. And the hypocrite, like I said, I don't know if it's hypocrisy or irony, is that a word? It was all, the surprising thing, it was all from Christians who were anti-abortion, talking about welfare rats and degrading people who could get pregnant. Not the people who got them pregnant, but degrading the people who can get pregnant for having children, for getting pregnant. They insinuated that they leached off welfare and they got all these great benefits and this and that and living off the state. But then they're going to, in the same paragraph, say how they're anti-abortion. Which is it? Because if you're going to tell people who can get pregnant that they should not be getting an abortion, you cannot tell them that they're less than for taking government assistance. And this is, why do you think, this is a gender-based issue. Because women, I don't know if I said in this video, this is the third time I've done it, but women are the ones, people who can get pregnant, traditionally women, they're the ones left holding the babies. They're the one having to do all the care. They're the one having to try to somehow manage, right? Or whether that be placing. And after all wreaking all the havoc on the body from going through this trauma of having a child, and it really wrecks your body. Sometimes it wrecks the body to the point that women are debilitated. And this is very common. It is not uncommon. These hemorrhoids, pelvic tilt, endometriosis, heavy menstrual cycles, uterine prolapse, rectocele, bladder prolapse, perineal tearing, uterine tearing, complete destruction of the vagina. Plus afterwards, for about 6 weeks, there is heavy bleeding. And so they're heavily bleeding. They have to take care of this child. Their body is destroyed. And we're calling them welfare rats. That is disgusting. I'm an atheist, and I think, I wish there was a God. I wish there was a God to be ashamed of the people that are doing it. Because God, if there was a God, the United States would be destroyed. He would do a Sodom on the United States. Sodom was destroyed because of its ill treatment of the disadvantaged people, the widows, the poor, the children, the poor children. And that's what the Christians are doing in the United States. So what I'm saying is, you don't have to worry about, you have to worry about politics getting in the church. It's been going on forever. I remember going to a church service back when I was doubting who God was and if there was a God. I remember going into my mom's church one time, and at the door they were handing out flyers for the Republican candidate. I don't remember I think it was the president. It might have been senators, congressmen. But anyways, yeah, they were handing it out. And they actually said in the service that this is who you are to vote for. Even then, I knew there was supposed to be separate. I knew that was wrong, right? That was immoral and illegal. But, yeah, you have to worry about that. But you don't have to worry about Christianity getting into the politics, because they're not doing anything that Jesus said about taking care of the poor and taking care of the disadvantaged and not condemning them. You also don't have to worry about Christianity slipping into the church, because the people from them pews, in them pews, that are saying the worst thing about welfare rats and people leeching off the government and me having to pay for them to have kids and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, you don't have to worry about Christianity. Christianity, yeah. You want a Christian, you go to our Methodist church over here. You go to the Universalist church. You go to the Unitarian church. Okay, if you want Christian, you go there. But if you don't have to worry about Christianity in the Baptist church, or the Catholic church, or the Lutheran church. So anyways, Christians, it's time for you to step up. Quit degrading people who are on welfare, who are going to get welfare, or who you think. Quit slut shaming. Quit slut shaming, because you're only doing it to the people who can get pregnant. You're only doing it to, I should say, you're only doing it to the people who have labia. Okay, you want to slut shame? Slut shame the ones who have the penis. Okay? Slut shame the ones who don't have to have the consequences of the bodily consequences of pregnancy, and who often get out of having to pay any support or do anything. Support is the least a person can do. It's the day-to-day changing of diapers, trying to get enough sleep when there's midnight feedings, and having to drop the kids off at daycare before going to work, and then having to come pick them up and having to take them to the doctors, and all the stress of being the day-to-day parent. Money is the least you can do. And then you complain about that. The reason you opted to pay is because you didn't want to have the day-to-day care of the child. You can't have it both ways. And Christians, you need to stop. You need to stop shaming people who can get pregnant for getting pregnant, for utilizing their sexual being. Sex cravings are a part of a normal, healthy body. Not having sex cravings does not necessarily mean you're unhealthy. But most people have sex cravings, and they should not be shamed for that. And just because one gender happens to be able to get pregnant doesn't mean that they should have to curb their sex cravings. Because there's a 5% chance they can get pregnant. How is that going to work in a marriage anyways? Let's talk your traditional marriage, Christians. Let's talk that. There is always a percentage that somebody with a uterus could get pregnant. Okay? So what, should a married couple not have sex? Because there's a chance that one of the couple might get pregnant? And then let's talk about rape. Oh, that's another way somebody with a penis gets out of paying child support. Rape. They rape somebody. Typically, they're never found out. The person, oftentimes, the victim, doesn't know who the rapist is. If it's a snatch and grab, they rarely ever find out. And even if they do find out, the person goes to jail. There's no child support for that. The person's in jail. Or the person just scooted on there. Or the person was somebody they knew and they took advantage of them while they were under the influence of drugs or alcohol, or pressured them into it, or physically restrained them in some way, somehow coerced them into it. And the person who got raped is too ashamed. And somehow, because we victim blame, we're victim blaming now for people with uteruses getting pregnant. We're slut shaming now. Just imagine the shame that would come if somebody got raped. What were you wearing? What did you do to lead that person on? Instead of blaming the perpetrator, we blame the victim. So anyways, I'm just kind of all over the place. It's one of them things, again, I should have written my stuff down so I'd have a coherent argument here. The bottom line is, time for you to ante up, Christians. Anti-abortionists. You already proven yourselves you're not doing the job you said you would. You're shaming people for getting pregnant, calling them welfare rats, and saying, well, why wouldn't they? That is one of the phrases I heard. Why would somebody want an abortion? They could get all this money from the government. That's shaming somebody for wanting to get an abortion, and shaming them for taking assistance. At the same time, that is the most, what's the word again? Hypocritical? Ironic? thing I could think of. Which is it, Christian? Which is it? Okay, if you're going to shame somebody or try to criminalize abortion, you need to quit with the welfare shaming. I don't pay taxes right now, but I haven't paid taxes, and I'm more than happy to give it to my taxes go to somebody who needs it, a family who needs it, a woman who needs it, a homeless person who needs it. Quit it. I just can't say enough how you're dropping the ball constantly. You're talking about how you're Christian and you don't do what Jesus tells you to do. Forget the Beatitudes. Forget helping the poor. We got our 10 commandments from the Old Testament. And that's what we're going to stick to. The only thing we'll accept from the New Testament is Jesus died for our sins so we can go to heaven. Other than that, what Jesus taught, fuck that shit, is what you're saying. That's not Christianity. Woman up. Quit shaming poor people. Advocate for better and more widespread welfare assistance to those left holding the baby that you insisted that they have in the first place. Just pisses me off as a person who needed the welfare system, as a person who advocates for as an atheist. I act like a better Christian than most Christians. Shaming people for having a sex drive, shaming people for being able to be pregnant, condemning them to remain pregnant, sometimes even under the guise of rape, destroying your body just so we could, have another person on the planet that we're not going to take care of because we're going to send them to a crisis pregnancy center, which outright said to not allow women to become a leech off the system. So you only give them enough for newborn stuff and then tell them not to come back. They just outright said that. They got to get up on their own feet within 6 months. That was their goal, 6 months. Within 6 months, you can get up on your feet from having a child and get right back to, being homeless? Jesus Christ, step it up, people. You want this child to come in, you're going to have to be willing to support that parent or parents, because some of these people, a lot of these people are married and already have children and already have enough stress. They don't need to be having another child or 2 or 3, twins, triplets, quadruplets. You need to go the full amount. You need to go the full 18 years. And if that person's disabled, you may have to go for the rest of your life aiding and abetting these parents who have children because you tell them not to get an abortion. Anyways, I gotta go.